Talk of Bloodborne just never seems to go away. This Sony exclusive and beloved Fromsoft title is the reason many of us got a PS4 in the first place. It's the reason I got a PS4. I had to play it. It is my favorite of the Fromsoft Soulsborns, and easily my second favorite game of all time. Although, at this point, I'm not entirely sure of that either. There are times when I'm playing it, and there's a whisper in the back of my mind telling me, this is the greatest thing I have ever played. So I might have to reassess my list and see if it has overtaken Metal Gear Solid 2 as my favorite game of all time. Regardless, the discourse never seems to finally die. This phenomenon started more or less around the release of the PS5. Talks of a remaster, maybe a PC release, at least an update patch unlocking the 60 frames a second. Something, anything. Players would watch state of plays, hoping, praying, yet nothing ever manifests itself. Sony? They don't really help this situation any. It's about persistence. What does that even mean? Were the players persistent enough? Is Sony finally gonna cave? No, Sony doesn't care. Sony's never cared. But it does rile up the fan base. They look at that and go, see, it's a sign. Sony's finally gonna do something. No, they're not. And now with the announcement trailer of the Switch 2 exclusive, The Duskbloods, which, by the way, is a terrible title. It sounds like some mid-2000s CW teen vampire high school drama. They need to do something about that name, but here we go again. Look, it's Bloodborne 2. It's the spiritual sequel. Sony has forsaken the franchise and Nintendo has snatched it up for themselves. Judging by the little I know of the game, I don't really buy that that's what's going on, but the talk just doesn't stop. People absolutely love this game and want more of it, if just in the form of an update for the current generation. The game is 10 years old now, which in some players' eyes is the equivalent of an arthritic old man with one foot in the grave. I don't know how many times I hear about 60 frames a second, read posts about someone deciding to check out the game for the first time, and they just can't because those 30 frames a second have rendered it unplayable. This got me curious. It had been several years since I last played it, so I decided to return to Yharnam during its anniversary event. Partially because I really miss the game, but mostly to see if this is indeed the case. Is this game actually unplayable? Is it actually just outdated at this point and needs an upgrade?
We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open. Fear the old blood.
No Bloodborne video is truly complete without this iconic scene, and perhaps I should have listened, heeded the warning myself, feared the old blood, because this video is severely behind schedule. I wanted it out closer to the actual date of the anniversary. Originally, I was going to play through the game as quickly, as efficiently as I could, assessing this whole remaster situation. Somewhere along the way, I got completely lost. Between the over 100 hours, 2 characters, beating the game twice, getting around to the DLC which I had yet to play, an inordinate amount of time on multiplayer and PvP, delving into the Chalice dungeons, wasting away countless hours in there as I put on long-form lore videos in the background. Things I explicitly told myself I was not going to do. I just couldn't help it. I was so busy enjoying myself, I had all but forgotten why I was playing this game in the first place. But I never did fully lose focus on the task at hand. There are things I noticed. Things I would love to see changed in a remaster. Weapon durability. Let's get rid of that altogether. Let's get rid of it in every game. I have never understood this gameplay mechanic. I can't even call it a gameplay mechanic. It does nothing to improve the game. It does nothing to enhance the gameplay experience. Best case scenario, it's a mild inconvenience. Worst case, it causes you to stop what you're doing, stop having the actual fun in order to deal with it. In Bloodborne, it is absolutely pointless. Take the Tonitrus, for example. It is one of my favorite secondary weapons. Its lightning infusion is very useful against certain enemies, making it a powerful weapon in certain situations. But it is made of paper mache. The entire game, I would have to make sure that I go back and repair it, just in case, because if I forgot and I'm in the middle of going through an area, the thing could just break, causing me to have to use a less effective weapon or have to go back to the hunter's dream to repair it, causing me to have to redo the entire area again. This is not fun. And speaking of the hunter's dream, you have to go there way too often for my tastes. It's a nice little place, good little soundtrack, peaceful, the doll is there, Gurman's there. I guess there's lore implications, I don't know. I don't care. I don't want to have to go there so often. You have to go there to refill your blood vials. You have to go there to level up. You have to go there to strengthen your weapons, to repair your weapons, which shouldn't even have to happen. And you have to go there to, of all things, refill your inventory. If there is one thing that they improve in the remaster, at least just this. Make item refills automatic. If you want, you could force me to go back to the hunter's dream to do it. Fine, whatever. I might have to go there anyway to do any one of the dozen other things you're forcing me to go there to do. Okay, but there is no reason whatsoever why I have to go to this stupid little stash box and manually refill each individual item. There isn't even an option in the stash box to refill everything in one button press. This was the most, okay, maybe not the most, I'm not sure. Either this was the most annoying or the weapon durability was the most annoying. At this point, I can't tell. Either way, I couldn't stand this item refill nonsense. Another thing I have an issue with is this whole blood vial situation. I don't see why you can't just refill your blood vials at the next bonfire you reach. The only thing that forcing you to go back to the hunter's dream serves to achieve is a break in the flow of gameplay. This is yet another one of these mild inconveniences that tarnishes an otherwise wonderful experience. Also, why do they run out? Why is this a finite resource? This was a complete regression from the improvements made from Demon Souls to Dark Souls 1. You are given a fixed amount of heals. You are cognizant of how many times you can fuck up in any given pocket of time, and you react accordingly. Then, when you reach the next checkpoint, you refill, refresh, and keep chugging along. Them running out causes a problem, especially for a lesser experienced player. What happens when they finally hit that wall? They face that particularly difficult boss. They're banging their head against that wall over and over again trying to beat it, wasting away those precious blood vials until they finally run out. Now they have to stop, go back to a previously beaten area, and farm easy enemies to get more blood vials, or they have to use some of their precious blood echoes to buy more. This is yet another one of those breaks in the flow of gameplay. It is completely unnecessary and should not be this way. One final grievance, one that actually does affect gameplay on a moment-to-moment basis, is this absolute doo-doo pants jump mechanic. This hold button to sprint, then tap again to jump thing. I don't know how many times I'd sprint at an enemy and wanted to dash at them to close the distance for an attack, and instead, like a supreme asshole, I'd casually leap past them and do a little roll. Over 100 hours in, and I just couldn't find the mechanical rhythm necessary to instinctively perform this maneuver, to the point where I just gave up. And it's such an easy fix. Instead of double tap, hold that button to sprint, then tap X right next to it to perform the jump. For such an underutilized mechanic, I can't think of maybe 5 times the entire game where you have to jump, it is needlessly clunky and actively gets in the way of combat. There are two other things I can't actually say are design flaws. They don't negatively affect gameplay or the flow of things. I don't like that they're like this. First thing, given the unique nature and limited number of weapons in Bloodborne, I wish they'd let me equip the weapon just to check out its moveset, even though I don't have the required stats to actually use it. If there's a weapon I find, I think it might be cool, might want to check it out, but it requires a couple of stats that don't align with my build, and I invest those points and it turns out I don't like this weapon, those points were wasted away. They could have been better used somewhere else. At the very least, add some sort of respec option. Maybe an item you find in the game world. Even Fromsoft has added respec in subsequent games. That way, you don't have to feel buyer's remorse every time you stare at those 2 points you had to add to Blood Tinge for a weapon you're not even gonna use. The other thing is just so weird. I don't know why it's like this, and I have never experienced something like this in any other game. It doesn't really affect gameplay, not really, but the L2, the gun button, the parry button, is so sensitive. It goes off for nothing. You put down the controller too hard, bang. Pick it up carelessly, bang. You rest your ring finger on that trigger and put the most minute bit of pressure on it, bang. You side-eye the controller, bang. You breathe on it too hard, bang. All day, every day, bang, 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 bang. And I don't understand why it's like this. And it's not the PS5. It used to happen on the PS4 too. This is not necessary. It's not going to negatively affect gameplay. I'm not going to miss my parry window because I have to put a little more pressure on it for me to shoot the guy. Why are you like this? This should be changed. I don't know how many times I wasted so many bullets just shooting into the air. This pretty much covers my list of things I would like changed and or improved in a remaster. It's pretty obvious I haven't mentioned graphics just yet. I'm not entirely sure how to approach this topic. Maybe I'm not the right person to ask. I'm not particularly picky when it comes to graphics. If the game looks good enough and runs smoothly, I'm happy. Could Bloodborne look better? I think this is a bit of a loaded question, honestly. Couldn't any game in the history of ever look better? I've seen some gorgeous games out there, but not once have I seen something and went, yep, that's pretty much it. It doesn't get any better than this. Every game can use some improvements. Bloodborne could technically look better, but in reality, the game's already gorgeous. And Fromsoft, they're not really about graphical fidelity. They're more about the aesthetic, the mood, and the atmosphere. Bloodborne is spot on when it comes to this. And playing it, I didn't really see that big a difference between it and Elden Ring. Elden Ring was maybe, higher quality textures, I suppose. I don't know. I'm being sincere here. I couldn't tell the difference. It just looks like another Fromsoft game with that trademark look of theirs. In some ways, I wouldn't want the graphics to improve. I do feel like that murky, kind of smoky, blurry thing that Bloodborne does is something that should be kept. It is part of the aesthetic. And cleaning it up a bit might actually take away from that sense of dread that the game is so good at imposing upon the player. As for the big question, the 60 frames a second issue that is such a detriment to gameplay, I can't say I necessarily agree. Within a few minutes, I was starting to wonder what people were talking about. The game looked fine. After a couple of hours, I'd pretty much forgotten that was the reason I was playing the game again in the first place. Only occasionally noticing some little momentary hiccup for a split second as I rotated my camera, and the thought would pop back into my head, oh, yeah, I guess that's what they're talking about. The game plays smooth. There was never a single slowdown or problem, no matter how crowded it got. It never affected combat. The only time in any combat situation that I actively noticed anything at all was seeing the little spiders around stupid Rom kind of jaggedy. The animations weren't 100% smooth, but that didn't affect anything. Like I said, it didn't slow down the fight. It didn't actually cause any issues in combat. And in a game like Bloodborne, with FromSoft's unique combat sensibilities, this extra frame rate issue wouldn't affect anything anyways, because all the inputs are very deliberate. So this split-second reflex you might need from extra FPS isn't really applicable here. At least I don't think. Maybe I'm completely in the wrong. Maybe my eyes are not that sensitive to where I really don't notice such a big difference. If they're gonna make a remaster, yeah, of course, add the 60 frames, but I'm not going to pretend that it being at a smooth 30 frames a second, which it is on the PS5, is such a deal breaker to where it renders the game unplayable. I simply do not agree. Now, that doesn't actually mean there aren't issues in this department. There is the occasional texture pop-in here and there. Doesn't happen very often, and it usually happens when I'm sprinting through an area, but it does happen, and it could get cleaned up a bit. Then there's these little guys. Look at them. They're so silly, these ragdoll corpses, phasing through matter after a visceral attack, flopping around all over the place. It's so goofy and absurd. They could probably do something about this. It would make it look less stupid. But you know what? On second thought, I don't even think I want them to do anything about it. I love it too much. I am so amused by this. Just leave it the way that it is. It's so dumb. All in all, despite my love for this game, despite my original thoughts when entering this project, wondering what the fuck everyone was talking about, oh, Bloodborne is perfect, Bloodborne is great, there's no need for any of this. After a thorough and objective assessment of things, does it really need this remaster? Well, yeah, kind of. Although for me, it wouldn't be for the same reasons most people want one. Graphics are fairly low on my list of priorities. There are other things that need to be addressed in order to make this a considerably better experience. If this remaster were to ever come out, and all they did was make it look better and run more smoothly, I would actually be pretty disappointed. And who knows? All hope is not yet lost. Apparently, Bluepoint is working on some secret project, and the way Sony acts about all this, being all coy and shit, for all we know, this secret project is the Bloodborne remaster. And you know what? I'm all for it. It would revitalize the community. It would revitalize the PvP, which at this point, at least at the meta level, is mostly filled with those die-hard few that have been playing the game the entire time, giving it a fairly high barrier of entry, as you have to endure loss after loss after loss against people that are so much better than you, making it so that most people aren't going to want to stick around. So, yeah, I'm all for it. Sony, make it happen. Although, I'm not going to hold my breath.